guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled No, I Don't Work Here, But Neither Should You. Anyone who has ever shopped at Home Depot knows how hard it can be to find an employee to help you. If you do find one, that doesn't always mean they will know what they are talking about. I'm always at Home Depot picking up odds and ends that I've forgotten to order from the supply house for my job. I cannot believe the number of times I've overheard employees giving a customer wrong, and sometimes dangerous, information. For example, customer wants help hooking up his new hot tub. Orange-aproned idiot is explaining to customer how he just needs this standard, non-fused disconnect, meant for air conditioners, and some of that yellow wire. At this point, I had to step in. Me. Sir, do you know what amperage your tub is rated at? Customer. Shuffles the papers he was smart enough to bring with him. This says 40 amp minimum. 50 amp max. Me. That's what I thought. If you use that yellow wire, the best you can hope for is that you'll constantly be tripping the circuit. At worst, you could burn down the house. I then direct him to the correct size wire and fused disconnect and ask him if he has a permit for the electrical work. That's when Orange Apron, who has been following us and muttering, finally finds his voice. He doesn't need a permit. As a homeowner he can do whatever he wants. Me. Yeah, no. In this state, even homeowners are required to get permits and inspections by the local authority having jurisdiction. In this case, it's the City of Planning Department, for all electrical work. Oh, yeah? How would you know? Me. Looks down at shirt with electrical contractor I work for on it. Yeah, you're right. I've only been doing this for 20 years. What would I know? Turns back to customer. Look, you can listen to him if you want, it's your house and life. He's just trying to scare you into hiring him to do it for you. Me. Actually, I don't have the time for side jobs. And besides, I don't have a contractor's license, just a journeyman. I can't pull permits. Have a nice day. As I'm walking away, the customer puts his items down, and tells Oa that he won't be needing them after all. The next day, I get a call from my boss. It seems he received 2 phone calls that day. The first was from a manager at Home Depot, who was complaining that I was poaching jobs in our store. After telling him what happened, he ended up calling them back and asking if it was their policy to endanger lives and property with incompetent advice. The second was from the customer, who now wanted someone from our company to come out and do it right. The next story is titled Karen mistakes me for a manager, so does the employee she's abusing. I'm on my way to a meeting with customers, and I realize I have forgotten to bring along a pad. Popped into a store along the way, and as I'm scanning the shelves looking for a small pad, I notice Karen yelling at a young employee at the other end. Keep in mind that I'm just wearing a nice shirt, tie and slacks. Nothing to indicate that I work in that store, or anywhere else for that matter. I guess I made the mistake of looking her way for a second too long, because Karen immediately stormed over toward me. You're the manager here, you need to deal with your employees. Before I have a chance to correct her, she launches into a tirade about how worthless this poor kid was. She was swearing more than I do, and I swear like I was raised by Samuel L. Jackson. I glanced over at the employee, and he's white as a sheet and shaking. I looked at Karen and gave her my best manager speech about how I'm sorry she had a bad experience and that I would take care of the problem employee immediately. She proclaimed something along the lines of, "I would expect so," and walked away as fast as her cankles could manage. I walked over to the kid, who's still white and shaking. First words out of his mouth are, "Am I fired?" Turns out he had only worked there a couple of days. He honestly thought I was a manager too. I told him I didn't even work there, and that he should be weary of Karens in the wild. I have learned my lesson and will no longer go into that store wearing a tie. The next story is titled I Don't Work Here. I'm the bride. My husband and I recently celebrated our 28th wedding anniversary and we're looking through our old photos and one reminded me of this encounter. Hope you like it. We had a small wedding and a big evening reception for extended family and friends at a local hotel. As a thank you for my mother and newly minted mother-in-law, we bought them bouquets and the staff hid them in the bar stockroom until we were ready for them. I got changed out of my dress and into something I could have fun in after the traditional first dance and dancing with my dad. Things were going well. I met a lot of new family members. The time came to get the flowers. The staff were busy but said I could walk behind the bar and get them myself. As I was headed to the storeroom, a man shouted, "Excuse me. I thought this was for the bar staff because I don't work here." Man. Where do you think you are going? Me. Oh, to get the flowers. Man. Well, that can wait. I want stuff I can't remember. Me. Oh, sorry, I can't do that. Man. Why can't you just serve me? I've been here for ages. Me. I don't work here. I'm the bride, and you are? Man went quiet and red in the face. Turns out he worked in the same place as my husband and had tagged along with a group who actually were invited. But despite that, it was a wonderful day and we can still laugh together after 28 years. The next story is entitled Mom Causes a Traffic Jam, Saving a Parking Spot. My husband and I were meeting friends at a beachside restaurant for lunch and drinks. Beach parking is at a premium, so at peak times, cars circle the lot hoping to be the next person to catch someone leaving. We thought we'd gotten lucky on this particular day. A family had just made their way from the boardwalk to their car, which was just ahead of us and to the left. As they buckled in their kids, we turned on our signal and waited patiently, giving them space to back out. After they'd made their way, my husband started to make the left turn into the spot and had to suddenly slam on the brakes to avoid hitting a woman who darted across the road in front of us. As she kept walking, we slowly angled in after her, at which point, instead of continuing through to the next row, she turned around, faced us, and dropped all of her beach gear in the middle of the pavement, directly in front of us. Allow me to introduce, entitled Mom, M. We're now stopped halfway into the parking stall, M in front of us, centered in the spot, nonchalantly acting like we're not there. My husband and I look at each other and I suggest finding a different spot. My husband was annoyed, but he looked over his shoulder to back out. The car behind us was super close as a result of making such a quick stop. They couldn't fit around us, and they couldn't reverse so we can get out of the spot, because other cars were piling up behind them. We were literally trapped. My husband rolls down the window. "Ma'am, could you please move out of the parking spot?" M. "No, I got here first and I'm saving it. All of my stuff is here." Me. "We're not able to back out. We really need you to move." M. "That's not my problem. You can't have this spot because my husband and kids are on their way, and I got here first." At this point, my husband starts inching forward to try to give the car behind us space to get around the line of cars trying to park has now wrapped all the way through the lot and is forming on the main roadway. M. Screeching, "Oh, okay. Now you're going to hit me?" Me. "Ma'am, we have to try to give these other cars space." M. "You just want to take a good spot away from my family. We have children with us." My husband. "This is not about whether you have children. But tell me something, where is your family right now?" She calls them, and we can hear her husband on speaker saying they're stuck in traffic a quarter mile down the road, heading toward the parking lot. My husband yells, "Your wife is the one holding up traffic. She's standing in the spot." Silence for a second, and then, "What have I told you about holding parking spots? You're supposed to be down on the beach getting the umbrella up." As she gathered her things and moved away, we could hear them arguing, but we just took our spot and went to lunch. I had an extra frozen margarita for good measure. The next story is titled, I Don't Want to Be on the News. Don't put me on camera. Not sure if this fits but wasn't sure where else it would. I was standing in line to get into the supermarket today and the person just before me was a surly older gentleman who was not wearing a mask or facial covering, and appropriately, wearing a biker jacket with a big patch that read, "Duck Helmet Laws." The store has someone at the door, usually a teenager or an elderly greeter, whose job it is to ensure everyone entering the store has a face covering per their nationwide corporate mandate and under our state law. As the man arrived at the greeter, who could not have been a day under 65, she said, "Excuse me, you need a face covering to enter." He said to the old woman in this macho authoritative voice, "No I don't. It's okay," and tried to walk into the store. The old woman goes, "Actually sir, you do. It's not just policy anymore. It's the law." And he starts spouting off about how it's an unconstitutional law and how the greeter isn't in a position to enforce laws. A minute or two pass and people further back who can't see what's happening at the front of the line are getting restless. They begin to try and see what's happening. The guy is saying, "Look, you're holding the line. If the masks really do work, then everyone who's wearing one is safe. Right? And if they don't, then why do you care? And she was getting kind of desperate at this point and said, "Well, sir, because I could lose my job if I let you in there. This is where I come in." I hadn't spoken up before because this was a big guy and I'm just a student who's no good in a confrontation. I figured adding myself to the mix would only make the situation worse. So I took out my phone and started recording. I figured he would be less likely to do something violent to the greeter or escalate further if he knew he was on camera. Here's what I had forgotten. I was wearing a shirt from a 5K that was sponsored by our local news, so had Channel X Eyewitness News in huge print across the front. The guy's wife goes, "Good Lord, Howie, the news is filming. What if my work sees this? Jesus." So he turns to me and starts telling me he doesn't consent to be on TV. And starts making a speech how we're all treading on the Constitution, not respecting people's rights to bodily autonomy or privacy. I'm trying to tell him I'm not with the news and he's like, "I don't care if you're on the clock or not. I don't want to be on camera and I won't be forced to wear anything I don't want to wear. When did we forget that this is America?" Now this is where it got crazy. The line stretched all the way around the building, and people towards the end were realizing it hadn't moved in a while, and were coming up to investigate. An even bigger, more macho guy comes lumbering up and asks what the problem is. Sees this guy going off at the terrified elderly greeter, me shaking holding my phone, and is like, Sir, what's the problem right now? People are trying to shop." The maskless guy tells him, and I quote, "Get away from me. This here isn't your business." The more macho guy proceeds to whip out a badge and identify himself as an off-duty police officer, and that the law is, in fact, his business. First he tries to have the cop arrest me for putting him on the news without his consent. But I just played dumb at that point. My adrenaline was through the roof, and if I had been able to retain presence of mind, I would have left by that point and shopped somewhere else. The biker guy is now saying to the cop, "This isn't what you went into the academy dreaming about, man, is it? You're not stopping bad guys, you're forcing regular people to go against their beliefs." Cop said, "No one is forcing you to do anything, sir. You are free to make your own choices. You can put on a mask, or you can go home. Decide which would you like to do, because there is a line here." The biker guy keeps saying he isn't doing anything illegal and he has a right to shop in a public business, and the cop just shakes his head and starts quoting the official mask law that the guy is breaking at him. But the biker guy is just talking over him at that point, and the cop realizes he isn't getting anywhere. So the cop says, "Look, I don't want to escalate this, but you're not giving me a choice in this situation. If you won't leave of your own volition, you're trespassing," and starts explaining what will happen. The biker guy is ready to stand firm and says he knows he's in the right, but his wife is smarter and says, "Jesus, Howie, are you insane? The man's a police officer." And very ashamedly apologizes as she forces him to leave with various threats. Took nearly 15 minutes to get into the store. Caused a major backlog of shoppers. And made a poor elderly woman fear for her safety. Just wear the mask, or get your groceries delivered. I mean, seriously, people. Of all the hills to die on. The next story is titled "Customer Calls Me on My Day Off. Expects me to provide service." So, I deliver sandwiches for a living, been doing it for almost 6 years now. Most of our customers order from businesses during lunchtime, and some of those businesses keep their doors locked. Usually, I end up calling them to come out to meet me. We do this for one of my regular-ish customers, we'll call him Winston. Winston is never happy with his service. Sometimes he calls in because we didn't put enough avocado on his sandwich. Sometimes he calls because the driver didn't show him the respect he deserves, which probably means they tried to make eye contact or something IDK. Sometimes the food just cost too much. The GM put a note on Winston's caller ID not to give him any credits or anything because we don't want to reward people for finding new and innovative ways to be annoyed. This has led to Winston generally being left unsatisfied when he tries to complain. I delivered to Winston this last Thursday, and as per usual, I called him and waited half an hour for the dried-up prune to make his way to the front door. Everything went fine, except the usual attitude problem. The fun didn't begin until Friday, which is my day off. I'm sitting in my pajamas, trying to find a song I had heard online a bit ago, when my phone rings. I answer it, and what do you know, it's the sound of Winston's mouth breathing. Me. Hello? Winston. Where's my food? Me. What? Winston. My food's late. Me. Okay, I'm not working today, but you can call the store. Winston. Of course you're working, you always deliver my food. Me. Not on Fridays. This is where my patented okay method comes into play. Whenever I don't have anything to say, I just say, okay. It's completely non-confrontational. It doesn't imply any deeper meaning. It doesn't imply that I will do anything for or against you. Winston. Well, I ordered 35 minutes ago and my food isn't here yet. Me. Okay. He waits for me to continue. I don't. Winston. When are you going to be here with my food? Me. I'm not going to be, am I? Because I don't work on Fridays. Winston. You don't get to disrespect me. Me. Okay. Winston. I'm going to complain. Me. Alright. He didn't respond immediately, so I just hung up and went back to looking for that song. Later, I got a text from one of my coworkers. Apparently, when he called in to complain about me, he threw such a hissy fit that he got blacklisted. One of the owners ended up taking the call and she didn't like his attitude. The next story is titled The Time I Accidentally Got a Job. Not sure if this is in the right sub or not, but this is the tale about how I got hired and promoted in a 2-hour period. So I'm a Kiwi, New Zealander, and was on my overseas experience, in London. I was wandering the street and this guy was struggling with a pallet of beer, trying to get it into a music venue. So being the nice guy, the first time I asked if he needed a hand. I don't know how far this guy had been hauling these beers, but it must have been a long way because he was sweating. So we get these beers into this empty venue and he asked me to help set up the bar, pointing out where he wants things set up. I think he just assumed I worked for him, but I'm 19 and hate confrontation, so I just say, yeah, sure. So I start putting the beers in the fridge and he says, I'm off to take a shower, keep up the good work. So I've known you all of 20 minutes and you're trusting me, unsupervised with your bar venue? Not what I signed up for when I offered to help you, but I have nothing planned, so duck it, I guess I work here now. So I keep setting up the bar for the show that night and the bar staff start showing up. They must have been temps and been used to staff changes because they just assumed that I was the bar manager because I was the only person in the place. So they introduce themselves and ask what they can do. Luckily I'd worked in a bar before, so I start delegating. All this time the owner is nowhere to be seen, but I'm enjoying my new manager role and just bemused by the whole situation. Finally, an hour since he left, he comes back and something must have clicked while he was away because he came up to me and said, "You're not one of my staff, are you?" "Nah mate, why did you help me? You looked like you needed a hand with the pallet of beer." We had a bit of a laugh and he asked, "Do you like the specials? They are playing tonight and it's sold out, so stick around and enjoy." Oh, and, turning to the actual bar staff, this guy drinks for free tonight. I love the specials, and I love beer. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.